The clinking of wine glasses sounded like tiny, mocking bells. Around our family's dining table, everyone beamed at my sister, Claire. She had just announced her latest promotion to Vice President of Strategic Partnerships. To Claire, our father said, raising his glass. Our shining star. I lifted my glass with everyone else, forcing a smile. Claire's eyes, bright with triumph, then landed on me. "And what about you, Rach?" she asked, her voice sweetly poisonous. "Any exciting updates from the world of, well, whatever it is you do?" A nervous titter went around the table. I opened my mouth, but she cut me off. "You've always been so wonderfully average, Rach. Not everyone is meant to stand out, and that's perfectly fine." The laughter felt like a physical blow. Even our mother gave a weak, complicit smile. My face burned. At that moment, my phone buzzed on the table. The screen lit up with a single, stark subject line, regarding your submission to the university board. The drive home was a blur of rain and tears. Each swipe of the windshield wipers felt like it was clearing away another memory of Claire's superiority. Her high-powered job, her sleek car, her successful husband, her 2 gifted children. I was the quiet, reliable one. The librarian. The one everyone forgot to introduce at parties. But they didn't know the whole story. For the past 18 months, I had been secretly working on a proposal for the university where I worked part-time. It was a blueprint for a community literacy center, a place for underprivileged kids who fell through the cracks. It was my passion, my secret dream. I pulled into my driveway, the email burning a hole in my mind. Taking a deep breath, I opened it. The dean's assistant had written. "The board was intrigued by your preliminary document," it read. "We would like to discuss your proposal in person this Thursday." The boardroom was intimidating, all polished wood and serious faces. I stood before the university dean and several senior faculty, my hands slightly trembling. I clicked through my presentation, my voice gaining strength as I described my vision. "It's not just about reading," I explained. "It's about giving children a safe space, mentorship, and the tools to build their own futures." The dean, a thoughtful man named Dr. Evans, nodded. "The concept has tremendous merit, Rachel. But a project of this scale requires significant, stable funding. The university's budget is already stretched." My heart sank. It was the same old story. Great idea, no money. As I gathered my notes, defeated, an elderly woman who had been sitting quietly in the corner stood. "If I may," she said. "I'd like a word with Ms. Moore in private." The woman introduced herself as Evelyn Hart, a retired philanthropist and a major university alumna. "I was supposed to be here for a different meeting, but I overheard your presentation," she said, her eyes sharp and kind. "That wasn't just a proposal, my dear. That was a calling. I've been looking for a legacy project, and this is it." I was speechless. She offered to fully fund the literacy center on one condition, that I would be the one to lead it. "This has your heart and soul in it," she said. Then Dr. Evans returned, looking excited. "This is incredible timing," he said. "The university is launching a legacy initiative to fund one transformative project. Your proposal, Rachel, is now a top contender." My joy was instantly frozen by his next words. "We've received several corporate sponsorship bids, including one from Crestline Marketing, Claire's company." The following Sunday, at a family brunch, Claire was holding court again. "Crestline is pitching for a huge partnership with the university," she announced, slicing into a pancake. "The Legacy Initiative. It's a massive deal. My team has been working on it for weeks." I stirred my tea, saying nothing. My secret felt like a glowing coal in my chest. "In fact," Claire continued, looking directly at me, "Peter is going to be one of the keynote speakers at the announcement gala." Her husband, Peter, nodded smugly. "It's a great opportunity for the firm," he said. "The university only partners with the best." I kept my eyes on my cup, the weight of my hidden knowledge making it hard to breathe. I was at the very center of the project they were so desperately trying to buy their way into. A week later, my colleague, Ben, from the university's development office, pulled me aside. "You had a call this morning," he said, looking uncomfortable. "From your sister, Claire." My stomach dropped. "She spoke to Dean Evans," Ben continued. "She said she was just calling as a concerned family member. She mentioned you can be quite emotional sometimes and that you might not be ready for such a high-pressure leadership role." I felt sick. The next hour, I was summoned to Dr. Evans's office. He looked troubled. "Rachel, we've received some informal feedback," he said gently. "Given the high-profile nature of the Legacy Initiative, we need to be certain about the project leadership. I'm afraid we need to pause your project until we can address these concerns." I drove straight to Claire's office. She was at her desk, looking impeccably cold. "How could you?" I demanded, my voice shaking. Claire didn't even flinch. She gave a small, dismissive smirk. "It's not personal, sweetie," she said. "I'm just looking out for the university's interests. They need professionals steering these projects, not dreamers. I was doing them a favor." Her words were a perfect, venomous echo of our dinner. I felt my resolve shatter. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was just an average dreamer. That evening, I called Evelyn Hart, ready to quit. She listened patiently, then said, "My dear, some people build themselves up by tearing others down. Don't give her that power. The quietest work is often the strongest. Prove them wrong quietly." Evelyn's words ignited a fire in me. I would not be silenced. I spent every evening and weekend rebuilding my proposal. I visited community centers and struggling schools, collecting data, testimonials, and building a network of support. I created a detailed budget and a phased implementation plan that was airtight. I worked until my eyes ached and my coffee went cold. The deadline for the final Legacy Initiative submission arrived. I handed my new, comprehensive portfolio to Dr. Evans. He spent an hour reviewing it in silence. Finally, he looked up, his expression one of pure astonishment. "Rachel," he said, "this is exceptional. This changes everything." At our nephew's birthday party, the family was gathered in the backyard. Claire, as usual, was the center of attention. "We just got the news," she announced loudly. "Crestline has been shortlisted for the Legacy Project sponsorship. It's practically in the bag." Everyone congratulated her. I was sitting on a patio chair, watching the children play. My phone vibrated in my pocket. It was an email from the chairman of the university board. The subject line was simple: decision. With trembling fingers, I opened it. The first word made my heart stop: "Congratulations. We are thrilled to inform you that the Moore Community Literacy Center has been selected as this year's Legacy Initiative." I looked up from my phone, the world moving in slow motion. Claire was laughing, accepting a glass of champagne from Peter. She had no idea. I felt a calm, steady smile spread across my face. I didn't say a word. I simply sat there, holding my silent victory inside, letting it warm me from within. Later, as dessert was served, Claire's phone rang. She answered it, her professional voice on display. "Yes, wonderful news," she said, walking away from the group. She returned a few minutes later, beaming. "That was my boss. Since we're the lead corporate sponsor, I've been assigned as the company's official liaison for the winning project." She looked around, so pleased with herself. "I start next week." The following Monday, the project team gathered for the first official briefing in the university's main conference room. I stood at the head of the table, reviewing my notes. The door opened, and Claire walked in, her tablet in hand, a confident smile on her face. "Good morning, everyone. Claire Moore, Crestline Marketing Liaison," she announced. Then her eyes landed on me. Her smile vanished. Her steps faltered. The color drained from her face. The room fell silent. I looked up, meeting her stunned gaze with a calm I didn't know I possessed. I gave her a small, professional smile. "Welcome aboard, Claire," I said. "Please, take a seat. Let's begin." You could have cut the tension with a knife. Claire sat rigidly, her knuckles white. As I outlined the project timeline, she repeatedly interrupted. "At Crestline, we found a more efficient approach," she'd say, or "I'm not sure that's the most strategic use of resources." Each time, Dr. Evans or another faculty member would gently but firmly defer to me. "Rachel's data supports her plan," or "let's follow Rachel's lead on this." Claire was being systematically neutralized in front of everyone. During a break, I saw Claire's boss, Mr. Dalton, pull her aside. His voice was low but stern. I couldn't hear everything, but one phrase carried across the room: "She's impressive. Stop fighting her and try learning from her." Claire's shock curdled into quiet rage. A few days later, I was preparing for a key donor meeting. I realized a critical set of financial projections was missing from the shared team folder. The version there was an outdated, incomplete draft that made my planning look sloppy. I felt a cold dread. I knew immediately what had happened. I had a digital log of all document activity. A quick check showed that Claire had accessed the folder an hour before the files were altered. I didn't confront her. Instead, I went to Dr. Evans, showed him the log and the correct, finalized files, and explained the situation discreetly. He was furious. Cliffhanger, I heard later that Dr. Evans called Mr. Dalton directly. The word ethical breach was used. The fallout was swift and public. Crestline Marketing was formally reprimanded by the university for unprofessional conduct. While they weren't removed as sponsors, their role was severely reduced. Mr. Dalton, livid, reassigned Claire from her high-profile liaison role to managing minor, local PR events. It was a humiliating demotion. Through it all, I remained focused on the work, my calm demeanor a stark contrast to Claire's drama. At our next project meeting, Evelyn Hart was present. She stood and addressed the room. "Given the exemplary leadership and integrity I've witnessed," she announced, "I am increasing my initial donation by 50%. And this increase is made solely in Rachel Moore's name." My mother came to my small house one evening, her hands wringing a handkerchief. "Rachel, I think I need to apologize," she began, her voice thick. "We always made such a fuss over Claire. Her achievements were so loud and obvious. We didn't see the quiet, strong work you were doing. Maybe we didn't believe in you enough." I looked at my mother, seeing the genuine regret in her eyes. The little girl in me who had craved that recognition felt a pang of sadness. "I appreciate you saying that, Mom," I said. "But I don't need your applause now to know my own worth." She nodded, understanding the boundary I had set. As she left, she mentioned, "The university sent a lovely invitation for the naming ceremony of the new literacy wing." Claire, desperate to salvage her career, stormed into Mr. Dalton's office. "You have to understand, Rachel has manipulated this entire situation to make me look bad," she pleaded. Mr. Dalton looked at her with cold disappointment. "No, Claire," he said flatly. "You did that all by yourself. You were so busy looking down on your sister that you failed to see she was the most capable person in the room. You underestimated her, and in doing so, you cost this firm a great deal." He dismissed her with a wave of his hand. A junior colleague later slipped and told Claire the final, crushing detail. The new wing wouldn't just be a literacy center. It was to be officially named the Rachel Moore Literacy Center. The night before the ceremony, I couldn't sleep. I walked through my quiet home, my mind replaying a lifetime of moments. Being picked last for teams, my A- grades called good effort while Claire's B+s were brilliant, the way I was always an afterthought. I had swallowed so much pain to keep the family peace. Now, that peace was mine to define. I sat at my desk and began to write my speech. I didn't write a single word of revenge or bitterness. Instead, I wrote about gratitude for the second chance, the power of quiet purpose, and the children who deserved to be seen. My words were not a weapon, but a welcome. The university hall was packed with faculty, donors, students, and press. Cameras flashed. I saw my parents sitting proudly in the front row. And there, several rows back, sat Claire, her face pale and pinched. Dr. Evans took the podium and spoke about vision, dedication, and transformative generosity. And so, he boomed, "It is with immense pride that we dedicate this new wing to the woman whose heart and hard work made it all possible. From today forward, it will be known as the Rachel Moore Literacy Center." The applause was thunderous. As I stood, I saw Claire stand up abruptly. She shoved past people's knees, not looking left or right, and fled the hall as the crowd rose to its feet. My speech was recorded and posted on the university's website. It was shared thousands of times. A local news station did a feature on the center and my journey. The spotlight was bright and kind. Meanwhile, the scrutiny on Crestline marketing intensified. A journalist, digging into the story of their ethical breach, uncovered previous, similar misconduct related to their charitable donations. The scandal grew. The board demanded accountability. A week after the ceremony, I received a brief text from my mother. Claire was let go from Crestline today. Peter's position was also said to be under review. My phone rang late that night. It was Claire. Her voice was raw from crying, slurred with wine. "Are you happy now?" she wept. "You've ruined everything. My career, my reputation. Mom and Dad are on your side now. You finally won." I listened to her list of blame against everyone but herself. When she finally paused, I spoke calmly. "I didn't do this to you, Claire. You did. You spent your life making sure I felt overlooked." I took a slow breath. "Maybe now, for the first time, you'll understand what that feels like." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I ended the call. The quiet in my room was absolute. In the following weeks, my life transformed. I was no longer invisible. I received an official offer from the Department of Education. They wanted me to lead a new national literacy program, overseeing its rollout across multiple universities. It was a staggering opportunity. Evelyn Hart took me out to lunch to celebrate. "I've seen many people seek recognition," she said, her wise eyes crinkling. "You simply focused on the work. And in doing so, you become exactly what they said you couldn't." Her words settled deep inside me, a truth I was finally starting to believe. Claire showed up at my office at the new literacy center. She looked tired, stripped of her corporate armor. "Rachel," she began, her voice hesitant. I need a reference. It's hard to find a new position after everything." I looked at my sister, this woman who had been my benchmark for failure my entire life. I saw the desperation in her eyes. A part of me wanted to say no, to let her taste the bitterness she had so often served me. But that was not who I was. "Claire," I said softly. "I will always be your sister. I will always support your growth. But I will not support your excuses." She flinched, nodded slowly, and left my office, her head bowed in what looked like the beginning of true reflection. At our mother's 70th birthday party, the family dynamic had shifted. Relatives surrounded me, asking about my new national role and the literacy center. I was the center of attention, and it felt strange but warm. Claire was there, but she was quiet and polite, staying close to Peter. She didn't offer any opinions or boast about anything. She just listened. During the toasts, our mother stood, glass in hand. She looked at me, her eyes shining with tears. "To my daughter, Rachel," she said, her voice strong and clear. "You are living proof that grace and quiet determination can, and will, outlast arrogance every single time." Months later, I visited the Literacy Center on a sunny afternoon. The place was alive with the quiet hum of concentration. Children sat in beanbag chairs, their noses buried in books. Tutors worked patiently at small tables. I looked at the beautiful mural on the main wall, funded by Evelyn's increased donation. It depicted children of all backgrounds reading, and the words beneath them read, "Knowledge makes the invisible seen." As I stood there, a little girl with bright, curious eyes ran up to me. She tugged on my sleeve and pointed at the name on the wall. "Are you the Rachel?" she asked. I nodded, smiling. She beamed. "When I grow up," she declared, "I want to be just like you." I stood back and watched the children learn. All my life, I had believed that being average made me forgettable. I thought I was destined to live in the background, a quiet supporting character in everyone else's story. I was wrong. The spotlight Claire had always chased was fleeting and cold. But this? This was a different kind of light. It was built not on noise, but on purpose. It turns out that consistency, kindness, and persistence make you unforgettable. Weeks later, a security guard told me he'd seen someone visiting after hours. I checked the guest log. There was no name. But under the plaque bearing my name, someone had left a simple, fresh bouquet of flowers.